story begins with Brave New World, known as BNW for short. This game, a virtual reality open-world MMORPG, boasts the largest scale in gaming history. It guarantees a high level of freedom with a massive and diverse world map spanning about 30 million square kilometers and includes over 2 billion NPCs with content nearing infinity. BNW also features a perfect replica of sensory systems and graphics. It was not just a simple game, it was a whole other world. Our protagonist wasn't particularly interested in those features. The primary reason he started playing the game was to make money. He realized he could earn by playing games, and it has been 1 year since he started. Although he was a member of a normal class, he obtained the profession of Elemental Mage. As a result of working tirelessly, he became the master of the Beamer Guild, which had 200 members. He looked at his chest full of gold coins, knowing it should be enough to live comfortably and hassle-free for a while. The man beside him excitedly told him that with that much gold, it must be worth a few. A sweet dungeon. He replied that there is a way to know everything. Seeing how talented he was in games despite his educational and family background, he believed there was no law telling him he must die. He knew that BNW was the only way he could survive. However, one rainy day in the forest, he was running while being chased by 2 equipped men. He managed to create distance between himself and the men. Due to the rain, the men couldn't see properly and lost sight of him. One of the men told his comrade that it seemed like he went that way, but there was nowhere to. Behind a tree near them, he cursed the men and called them dog-like Genesis bastards. The Genesis Guild is a supergiant guild with significant influence within BNW, and those bastards were the ones who destroyed the Beamer Guild that he operated. He thought that no matter how large the Genesis Guild was, he didn't expect the power gap to be so vast and to fail without even putting up a proper struggle. The system then warned him that he had been playing for 47 hours and reminded him that excessive gaming can interfere with his normal daily life. This made him ask the system to go when he had nowhere to go, knowing that even if he logged out, the only thing waiting for him was the musty basement room and a worn-out VR capsule. The only remaining items on him were 3 dry beef jerky sticks, a torn cloak, 2 treasure maps torn in half, and a faded wand. He sat down on the ground, defeated, and sighed, wondering if it was all over for him. He bit his, in anger, asking himself why he couldn't do it and why he always lost after all the efforts and sacrifices he had made. Suddenly, an old man appeared in front of him and told him that it was because he was weak. The old man also said that the world is a ruthless place for the survival of the fittest, and that it was only natural for the weak to be trampled upon. The old man then asked him why he complains of injustice, making him wonder since when the old man had been in front of him. The old man then remarked that it was pathetic to see a young guy acting like a beggar. 03. This made him furious, wondering who calls someone else a beggar just like that. He then turned to the old man, telling him to not mind him and continue on his way because he was not in the mood to engage in wordplay at that moment. The old man was shocked by his action and yelled at him that he couldn't even listen when an adult was speaking. But then, he felt something and turned around to see a man launching an attack from above, making him shout to the old man that it was dangerous. A loud explosion could be heard in the forest. The attacker told his comrade that he was a reckless jerk and suggested they go together, yet he went in alone. Calling his comrade a slowpoke, the man then looked at our protagonist and told him that he really didn't log out, even though he was injured while protecting the old man. The man replied that he had said it himself. He didn't want to log out because reality felt more like hell, making the man's comrade unable to believe it. Meanwhile, he was holding his hand in pain, knowing that he was doomed and he didn't even have a weapon he could use. He then told the old man that it was a dangerous place and begged him to leave quickly, but the old man just asked him if he was talking to him and that it was not the time for joking. The man's comrade asks about the old man, questioning if he is an NPC, but the man just laughingly replies that it was really funny to see him worrying about an NPC. Suddenly, another man appears and tells them that our protagonist has always been like this, enjoying cosplaying as a nice guy. Shocked to see the man, he realizes it's Kim Jinwoo, his traitorous comrade. Jinwoo responds that calling him a traitor is a bit harsh, and that he simply transferred because he received a better offer. considered him family, but Jinwoo retorts, asking if his family talk isn't getting old, and suggests that if he really thought of them as family, he wouldn't have confronted Genesis. He accuses him of recruiting guild members only to use them as pawns to maintain control of the guild. Surprised and about to reply, he is interrupted as Jinwoo shouts at him to forget his family ideals while grabbing something from his inventory. Commenting on the saying that one should avoid companies that feel like family because they only become like family when the business thrives. Jinwoo points the staff at him, stating that even if he had it, it was just a piece of junk to him, but he'd put it to good use. Jinwoo then attacks, shouting that his weapon is awesome. The attack explodes upon impact. The man calls Jinwoo a psycho and asks how he can just dismiss their shared history so casually. But Jinwoo replies that he has to step on them firmly so they can't rise again. But then, someone calls Jinwoo worthless scum, and the old man tells Jinwoo that no matter how much of a trash he was, he didn't stab a knife in the back of a benefactor, and then laugh. Who blocked Jinwoo's attack, tells him he isn't even worth recycling. Jinwoo, stuttering, calls out to the old man in confusion while he and the men are shocked. Jinwoo questions if the old man really blocked his attack, to which the old man casually asks if that was supposed to be an attack. The old man then punches the air, demonstrating how it's done, which hits the men and shatters the ground. He covers his face to avoid the debris from the old man's powerful attack, and peeks to see the damage indicator show 999 billion, the maximum damage that can be inflicted in the game. Believe it, but the system activates his rune of insight, revealing that the old man walking down the street is an entity-type NPC human race at level 999. He shouts in disbelief, questioning if the old man's level is truly 999. The old man tells him that he has been observing him for a long time, and acknowledges that although he has no talent, no money, and not even luck, he admires how he struggles with all his might. Suddenly, the system interface appears beside him. Epic Quest. The content instructs him to bow respectfully to the old man on the street. The reward is unknown, but he is warned to perform the bow very respectfully, otherwise he risks being struck dead by the angry old man. Realizing the incredible opportunity, he notes that the quest content isn't particularly difficult, though the final warning is somewhat concerning. Unsure of the exact implications, but aware that such a chance may never come again, he bows deeply in front of the old man and thanks him for saving his life. He, disciple. The system confirms that he has completed the epic quest, the sacred bond of connection, and congratulates him on becoming a disciple of Deos and on his class change from elemental mage to disciple. Confused, he asks what it means to have the profession of a disciple, and Deos replies that it literally means he has become his disciple. Deos then reaches out to him, explaining that as his disciple, he will lead him on the path to invincibility, leaving him stunned. With worry in his heart, he accepts Deos' hand in agreement. Underneath them, and he realizes with astonishment that it is teleportation magic. A few seconds later, they arrive midway up Cumberland Mountain, and he finds himself kneeling on the ground, overwhelmed by confusion. He can hardly believe that Deus used teleportation magic so effortlessly when even high-ranking players find it difficult, leading him to wonder if the old man is really an NPC and not an administrator. Deus tells him to stop dawdling and follow him, because there is a place nearby where he will begin his training. He stutteringly replies with a yes. He was amazed to see a beautiful, clear lake in front of him. Deus explained that this was the lake of purification, which would purify him. He asked Deus what he meant by that, and Deus replied that he didn't intend to teach him for long, so he would undergo an intensive training for 99 days, and the lake would assist with this process. Confused, he asked Deus for clarification, and as Deus approached him, he explained that it was literally purification, adding that new wine must be poured into a new bottle. Then Deus kicked him from behind, telling him that he was incredibly filthy and should wash up first. He fell into the lake, covering his mouth, thinking he was dying, but then realized he could still breathe. The system then informed him that the lake of purification was working and warned that severe pain would commence for 1 minute, urging him to prepare, which left him bewildered. As the countdown continued, lightning struck him, making him scream in pain, while Deus simply laughed, commenting that his screams sounded refreshing. He felt every cell in his body burning, making him wonder if the system allowed that level of pain. He shakily approached the logout sign in the system, but stopped when memories of his father beating his mother in real life and working himself to death flashed through his mind. He clenched his teeth and endured the pain, telling himself that he wouldn't run away anymore. When the timer reached 2 seconds, bubbles surfaced from the lake. As the minute ended, he crawled out of the lake, stutteringly saying that he had done it, and then lay happily on the ground. Suddenly, the system popped up in front of him, informing him that his purification was complete and his character would be reset. The status then displayed his information. His name was Han Tae-sung. His level was initially 200, 100% 1, but reset to 1. His entity type was adventurer, and his class was disciple. He sat up in shock upon seeing this and shakily pointed at his level, but Deus simply told him that the purification was successful. He asked Deus what happened because his level had become 1, but Deus threw a towel at him and told him that an hour ago, he was nothing but trash. He asked Deus if he was referring to his state before meeting him. To which Deus replied yes, noting that his strength, stamina, mana, and everything else were improper. Deus then questioned if he expected to become invincible with such imbalanced growth, making him wonder if Deus reset his level because he was a useless character. Deus told him that he would rebuild him from head to toe and draw out his potential to the limit. He explained that while others gain 1 mana, he would gain 1.2 mana, leaving him surprised and wondering if it meant that if others gained 100% mana at level 100, he would gain 120 instead. Telling him he was grateful and would bow deeply as his disciple, but Deus just sighed, remarking that he had been bowing a lot today. Deus walked away, telling him it was too early to be pleased, and that he still had a long way to go to become the unparalleled strongest. Deus also mentioned that for the remaining 99 days, the process would be repeated 100 times involving even more rigorous training. He interrupted Deus, asserting that he could handle it, whether it was 100 times or 1,000 times, because he wouldn't give up as long as he could get stronger, and expressed hope that his determination wouldn't waver. The system then showed that his true training, termed rebirth, was beginning, involving enduring Deus's training and his at 1%. Meanwhile, in the United States, at the headquarters of B&W Games Company called Hive, inside the special department known as Hexagon, a man checked the system and exclaimed that Epic Code 007 had been activated, causing everyone to be shocked. The employees rushed to the man to inquire if Deus had taken on a disciple, who it was, and if it was the professional gamer from before. But the man replied that it appeared to be an ordinary gamer. Suddenly, a man entered asking what they meant by ordinary gamer. The Hive vice chairman and head of the Hexagon team, Oppenheimer, ordered the man to zoom in on the screen, which he did. Oppenheimer then reviewed Tae-sung's profile and determined that Tae-sung was an ordinary heavy user from Korea. He then stared at Tae-sung's data and stated that they should see how long Tae-sung could endure. Han Tae-sung sought an escape from his gutter-like reality, so he turned to Bando to find refuge, but he soon, from reality. This revelation made him wonder if perhaps the issue lay with him rather than the game. However, after meeting his master, he found new hope and began training to become invincible. 3 months had already passed. In the heavy snow of the mountain, Deus enjoyed his cup and happily told him that he lived to see his student giving him alcohol, and that he should drink it too. Tae-sung thanked his master. Deus then mentioned that after today, the promised 99 days would end, and asked Tae-sung if he felt sad about leaving Camlin Mountain. Feel sad about the end of such hellish training. Tae-sung accused him of making weak excuses after only 3 months of training, reminiscing about how back in his day he trained without even sleeping. Tae-sung remembered that during the break he was given, he worked hard to pay off his debts. Tae-sung then told Dae-sung that he had been curious about something and asked if Dae-sung had ever experienced a time similar to his. Tae-sung shared that there was a time when he also pursued strength, but unlike Tae-sung, he was not trash. For him, Deus continued, explaining that 500 years ago, there were 8 people who were the strongest on the continent, and he was always in last place. He had desperately wanted to surpass those stronger than him, so he stayed in Kunlun Mountain to train. As a result, he obtained the greatest power, but he still couldn't win. Tisung asked if his opponents were that strong, stunned when Deus replied that when he came down from the mountain, 500 years had passed, and they were all old and worn out. Deus remarked that because he was training for so long, he hadn't felt the passage of, then pulled an old book from under his coat and threw it in front of him, telling him to take it. Tisung asked what it was, but Deus challenged him back, asking if he knew what invincible meant. Tisung suggested it meant being stronger than anyone else, but Deus corrected him, explaining that invincible means unbeatable power. It is the power to overcome any enemy. Tisung questioned if winning wasn't only possible when they were stronger than their enemy, but Deus told him that there was no need to become the strongest. All he had to do was weaken the enemy stronger than him. Deus revealed that the technique he just mentioned was the beginning and end of becoming a debuff master. When Tisung opened the book, a strong power surged out, and the system notified him that he had completed his quest of rebirth and endured 100% of Deus's training. His class had changed from disciple to debuff master, and his nickname had changed from Tisung to Siegfried. He wondered why his nickname had changed to Siegfried. Deus, teasing him, explained that since he was his only disciple, they should use a name that suited him, and from now on, he should use that name. Stunned, changed their nicknames, yet Deus could alter even the system's laws as he pleased. Despite the change, he felt reborn and believed that with this new power, he could even defeat those from Genesis. Since he had become his disciple, there was something he must do, and he asked Deus what that was. Deus replied that those people he had mentioned earlier likely each had a successor prepared before dying, so he should defeat those descendants with the techniques he created. The system then displayed an epic quest, instructing him to defeat the 7 descendants of the years ago, excluding their master, Deus. Excited, he agreed and told Deus that no matter what, he, as his disciple, would definitely defeat them and prove his strength. Deus commented that his eyes looked much better and snapped his fingers. Circle appeared underneath him, and Deus told him that his training was complete and he should now go forth and become the strongest successor. He told Deus that he was ready to go. The teleportation magic then whisked him away, leaving Deus alone in his house, pondering if he might have put too much pressure on Tisun. Later, Sun arrived at the western end of the continent, in Beerman territory. Walking through the forest, he mused that Deus had sent him far away, but he felt it worked out well. Knowing he was only level 1, he realized that if he encountered the Genesis state, he would be easily defeated. His urgent priority was to grow without interference until he reached at least level 100. He opened his job description, and the system revealed that the debuff master role was a melee damage dealer, supporter, and wide area nuker. Its description detailed that it was a physical attack type debuffer that fights by weakening enemies using various debuffs. With heavy weapons as its main weapon and heavy armor as its main armor, the system displayed his equipment mastery, which included level 1 blunt mastery, shield mastery, great mastery, spear mastery, gauntlet mastery, and heavy armor mastery, all ranked as the system then showed that his debuff master skills were weakening curse, desperate defense, and smash all at level 1, with others still locked. The system revealed that desperate defense creates a circular field centered around the caster, reducing enemies' defense and magic resistance, with its range widening as the skill level increases. Similar field that gradually reduces enemies' health and mana. He was shocked upon reading this and couldn't believe it reduced both defense and magic resistance, as well as dealing fixed damage proportional to mana, which seemed incredibly powerful. Excited to try out his new skills, he wondered if there were any monsters nearby, or if he should just target a passing NPC. Suddenly, he heard someone screaming that they were not his enemy, and turning, he saw a tiger running towards him with a hamster in its mouth. The hamster, calling him a human bastard, begged him to save him, displayed an emergency hidden quest to rescue the Great Spirit, tasking him to defeat the mutated tiger and rescue the Great Spirit, though the reward remained unknown. He wondered if the talking hamster was the Great Spirit. Noting that the mutant tiger was level 25, he questioned if the level wasn't too high for a monster in a starting area. Unsure of what to do, he spotted a branch on the ground and picked it up. He then activated his desperate defense and weakening curse, which decreased the tiger's defense, magic power, health, and mana. Draining away, so he struck the tiger with the tree branch, causing it to release the hamster. He recalled Deus's teaching that no matter how strong the opponent was, he just needed to weaken it.